It's an interview with Jackson Saunders, who's 23. Jackson has been the Sandhurst Diocese youth ministry worker for the past 3 years and has come to the decision that he would like to study for the priesthood at Corpus Christi Seminary in Carlton. So Jackson, tell us a bit about how you came to this decision.
Well, it's been a decision I've thought about for quite a while. I guess, Damien, one which I've been thinking about and praying about for many years. I guess the idea of it first occurred to me during my schooling days. During secondary school, I was always really keen to be a sports commentator, and I still am involved in sports broadcasting, and that's something which I guess I used to pray for a lot. And it was funny, I still remember sort of way back then I used to sense praying for that, but in a funny sort of way, God perhaps saying that one day you might be a priest. And I guess the idea has evolved from prayer, and then I went on to the media straight out of school and worked at the Bendigo Advertiser as a journalist for a year or so, and that was a great experience, one which I thoroughly enjoyed. But it got to a point as well where I realised that it perhaps wasn't for me, and so I started to pursue other interests and opportunities, did a bit of travelling, a radio school course, and also a stint at La Trobe University in Melbourne doing sports journalism, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But I guess I was searching for something more and wanted that great sense of fulfilment in life and that ability to put your faith into action and to be of service to others, I guess. So one Saturday night I rocked up to my home parish of Golden Square, which is a very special place to me, and saw in the bulletin that night a notice saying youth ministry worker, Sandhurst Diocese, and the position was up for grabs, and I immediately felt drawn to it. I sort of dismissed it at first and thought I'm doing other things at the moment, continue with the uni and so forth, but the idea stayed there, and I had a bit of a think and pray about it, and a few days later decided to go for it. So I guess I felt called to that, and then just a series of other events, I guess, in my life too, which have perhaps made me think that perhaps this is the way that I'm being led. Got the opportunity to go over to New Zealand last year as well for a couple of weeks with Mons Peter Jeffrey, which was a great experience, and we've become good friends since that as well. So opportunities like that, I guess, and little comments and thoughts that you have along the way, that opportunity to help people is something which I guess has attracted me to the idea of it being a possibility for the future. And obviously the ministry work I've been involved with in the youth scene has helped that, as well as the involvement with the parish, which is something I'm pretty passionate about.
So what encouragement did you get from friends and your parish priest that sort of helped you make the decision?
Well, look, I've received a lot of encouragement, I guess, about this possible pathway, and it's one which I've been very thoughtful and prayerful about, and people that know me will know that I like to try and do things as perfectly as possible, so I wanted to try and be as sure as I can be with this decision. But in the end, although I have very good reasoning and thinking as to why this may be what I'm meant to do, I sort of had to come to the decision that I've just got to go for it, to take a bit of a punt, to dive in the deep end, so to speak, and to see if this is what it's meant to be, if this is the way that God's leading me to live out my life. So I guess a bit of trust involved with that, and that's been a message, I guess, which some people who I've spoken to have suggested to, and it's funny, some of the readings of late and so forth as well, how that message has been coming across, and that's helped in the process of discernment too. But I guess you do get mixed comments too, and that's been one of the more challenging things too, I guess, because you have people, all very well intended, but some people saying go for it, you're ready, all that sort of thing, and others saying take your time and so forth. So you sort of got two conflicting points of view, which can be quite hard to work through, and at times it can probably do your head in. But I guess ultimately it's for you to work it out with God and to have a bit of faith in yourself and God and to take a punt and see if it's meant to be. So I guess that's what I've decided to do. Embrace it, give it 100% and see what comes from it.
So it's really a period of discernment, testing the waters, going to study for the priesthood with the full intention of wanting to be a priest, but also knowing that you've got all those years to work through it.
That's right. And like I go into it with a very open mind that this may be what I'll do and be a priest, and God willing, if that's what's meant to be, I'll be very happy to be in that position. But I guess I'm not making that lifelong commitment just yet. It's a time of discernment and to see if this is my vocation and what it is that I'm being called to do.
What advice would you give to others who are in a similar position and perhaps contemplating whether or not it would be something for them?
The key bit of advice would probably be to follow your heart and to back your instinct to some extent, and to, I suppose, also not be afraid, which is, I had many fears and lots of apprehension about it, and I guess there still are certain nerves about having made this decision, and still waiting to go to the seminary and to see what it is all about. I've been there, I've visited it, I've spoken to many people, I've done the tests to go there, but there's still a bit of uncertainty there, and that, I guess, a tiny bit of apprehension. But having said that, I guess I've been really encouraged of late, particularly in my prayer. It's quite funny how things work sometimes, but that hymn, "Do Not Be Afraid," and the chorus to that has been resonating through my head heaps of late, and that's something which has really stuck with me. And it was quite funny actually, I went to Mass last weekend at St Monica's in Kangaroo Flat, and the final hymn on Sunday, lo and behold, was "Do Not Be Afraid." So it was a bit emotional, I guess, particularly with the readings that were spoken about that day, which were all about that sense of trust and to come and see and to try and do the will of God, I guess. So that was really powerful stuff as well. So I guess that's a key thing too, just to take a punt to see if it's meant to be. It's a period of discernment. Going to the seminary is really just the first step of that. In that formal capacity, I suppose, obviously there's a whole heap of discernment that goes on to get to the seminary, but I guess in that formal setting, taking that leap is the first step to see what the priesthood's all about, I guess, in a more deep and meaningful way. So we'll ride with it and see what happens.